So what is transcendental meditation and how does it differ to standard meditation?
Meditation as a general term is mental, something related to the mind, mental procedure. So it's not a physical, but there are, of course, so many kinds of ways to use the mind. Could be in counseling, could be in thinking, directing the mind to focus, contemplating on different thoughts, different proverbs, thinking about one's life, even praying or, having a moments of peace and happiness to experience your breathing. There is this techniques of mindfulness where you're mindful of your breathing or mindful of your thoughts, you witness them. You are being told to not be involved sometimes. Sometimes you do an analysis of the thoughts, go back to the past, have thought associations. All of these are generally kind of meditations. You can also think of beautiful things, think of compassion and important things in life, unity, values, all on the thinking meaning level. And transcendental meditation is very different from all the other aspects of meditation because it transcends all the surface values so that we go beyond. So transcending is to go beyond. So you go beyond mental thoughts, you go beyond emotions and feelings, you go beyond trying to do anything even, and you just dive within. And that is a very natural, simple process that happens guided by the nature of the mind, which we can talk about more to see how does it work, why does it work like that. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, it's not a contemplation technique. It's not a technique that depends on focusing or forcing the mind. You do not manipulate or even guide the mind in any way. And therefore, in that sense, it goes beyond all these other aspects and takes us to the inner deep value of ourselves. So that is in brief definition. But of course, we can explore that more in terms of why and how it happens.
Yeah, sure. But just because I'm going to ask a lot of questions, that's what I do. But just to clarify, the first part is that meditation is about kind of understanding and kind of, being aware of kind of how you're feeling, emotions, thoughts, and so on. Transcendental meditation is taking that to the next level. Yeah, it's transcending the current state. Is that a right summary? If I can say so?
It's going beyond. To transcend is to go beyond. And in this case, it's go beyond the finest level of the mind to the level of pure consciousness, pure awareness. We say the mind is like an ocean, active on its surface with waves. And as you go deeper into the ocean of the mind, it gets more and more settled, more and more settled. Mm-hmm. And when you go to the bottom of the ocean, it's the most quiet level. And that is to transcend even. This is going beyond that to the field of pure consciousness. See, consciousness is like the screen in this case on which all the thoughts are happening. So, we are conscious, so we have thoughts and we are absorbed by the thoughts. The thoughts are the objects on which our attention falls. Mm-hmm. And there is a screen actually that upholds these thoughts. It's like you go to a movie and you watch the movie, you forget the screen because it's the movie that is happening. Mm-hmm. So we can say, well, think of the movie, think of what's happening in the movie, think about the characters, think about their emotions, you get involved personally in it and all of that. And all of this is happening on the screen of consciousness, of awareness. What we do in transcendental meditation is to go beyond the movie to the actual screen, to the screen that upholds all the thoughts and all the feelings and all of that. And this is our true inner self. This is what we say. It's the most settled state where there is no thought at all, yet one is not asleep, one is awake. And so this wakeful and deep rested state is what we call transcendental state of consciousness, transcendental state of awareness, where the individual is facing themselves. They are with themselves alone without the objects of surface thinking and feeling and planning and all of that.
And so you talk about consciousness a lot in your book. How do you define consciousness?
Consciousness is that screen, we can say, on which all life happens on the experiential level. So without consciousness, we cannot dream, we cannot hope, we cannot plan. You know, imagine yourself if you are in anesthesia, which is a very low level of consciousness. We don't call it no consciousness at all, because the body is still being conscious of things and reacts to things in anesthesia even. You can have change in heart rate and blood pressure if there is pain or something that happens. So it's a different thing. So that's why we call it not completely without consciousness. But let's assume on the level of awareness as we know it, that in anesthesia or in coma, there is no consciousness at all. So in that no consciousness state, you do not experience anything. You do not experience your health, your happiness. You do not experience your wealth. You do not experience your creativity. You don't experience the love that you have for others or that others have for you. The plans that you have. And so what brings all of this to light is consciousness. So consciousness is the light that lights up our life and allows us to see what is there. If you are in a dark room, there might be many, many things, but if it's really pitch dark, you don't see anything. And without the light of consciousness, you cannot experience anything. Of course, we're defining it here by what it does, what it allows us to experience, but what is it itself? And this is where we go to a different level of understanding, and that is that it is actually consciousness is the source of everything. Consciousness is primary, and it is actually what ends up becoming the universe and our life and all that. But that's a different layer of understanding what consciousness is. In terms of its effects, it is what allows us to see either more or less. So if your light is dim, you see less. If your light is strong, you see more details and you see broader. Or if you like to call it in terms of the screen, if your screen of life is tiny, you see only a patch of the reality. If your screen is wide and broad, you see more and more of reality and the things that are happening. So consciousness on an individual level can be narrow and can be broad. And that is what we would like to highlight, and that's why in the book I highlight this, the importance of consciousness and ability to see more or experience more of life.